Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Better, Bolder, Braver podcast. And also, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, welcome to that. My name is Frances Chalasji, and I am one of the co founders of the Better, Bolder, Braver community for coaches, supporting coaches with their marketing to put themselves out there with confidence, joy, clarity, and in order to build a sustainable coaching business. And I have with me today one of my new favourite people of all time, Gemma, who has changed my life quite significantly in the last 2 years. And all will be divulged as to how and why in the course of this conversation. If you are part of the Better, Bolder, Braver community, all you need to do is look back at the initial videos that I made for the Coaches Marketing Journey course, which is the course you get when you join the community. Because in the videos, you will notice, and in a number of our earlier marketing pictures, you will notice that I look quite different. And that is because when Simon and I gave birth to the community, in July 2021, I was in the early days of my journey with Gemma. And I confess, in that time, lost 2 stone. But more to the point, I have my entire mindset around my work and my family life and my getting out of my victim mentality has been informed by the work that Gemma does. So I wanted to interview Gemma for 2 reasons. One is that she's got a really interesting business model, which I think a lot of coaches in our community will be very interested to hear about. She's got her own personal experience and story that I'm hoping she'll be happy to share, and her philosophies that are peppered into the plan, and we'll get into how she works in a bit, are for me akin to a deep immersion in a kind of Buddhist outlook on life. And so I invite you all to put on your metaphorical hats or brains, and to enjoy the mic drop moments that Gemma is going to gift us today with regards to your coaching business, to doing marketing, and to life more widely. So, without further ado, I welcome you, Gemma, to
Thank
the
you.
Better World Braver
I,
podcast. How are you
I,
arriving today?
I feel a bit of an imposter with your grand introduction, I have to say. But no, it's really great to speak to you. I've been working with you for quite a while, and you've been very instrumental in my business growth as well, just by being a very jubilant and positive and very normal member of Fitbuddie who so many of my clients can resonate with, the highs, the lows, and um, just showing your true self, which really helps. So I thank you as well. Um, your posts always put a smile on my face, but you're real. And that's what we want, because I think we are sucked into such a perfectionist social media world where we all strive to look like these airbrushed fantasies, and then we berate ourselves when, quite honestly, we can't keep up with them, when actually so much of it is fabricated and actually makes us feel worse than ourselves. And so I really try and dispel the perfectionist mindset and try and make everyone create a plan that works for them, whether it's juggling relationships, work, motherhood, families, social lives, and emotions, I guess.
Thank you. And also for reminding me to make the point early on that what Gemma practices and her philosophies are very, very aligned with the Better, Bolder, Braver approach to supporting coaches with their marketing. So all that Gemma talks about in terms of being yourself and sort of learning about who you are in order that you can do the work, the hard work sometimes is at the essence of what we're trying to teach and support people with in this community. And there will be a lot of parallels that I will nod to as Gemma tells us more in order to illustrate that point as we go along. Gemma, let's start with, if you want to give us an overview of what you do, what the business is called and what it's there for, and then how you came to it, that would be really helpful.
So the business is called Fitbuddie, and it's a 12-week program which is remote. It's either group-based, although I've now been launching into one-to-one clients, whereby when you join, you could have various goals, be it weight loss, fitness. Some people actually join to put on weight. Some people join to get their meals more organized, to become healthier, to understand food. You're given a food plan which lays out all your breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack choices, but not in a prescriptive way. It's very much what I call the column method, where you pick and choose your macros, your proteins, your carbs, your fats, your veg, and you make up the meals that you like, with the overview that you have a mentor, aka me, seeing every meal that you make. So you photograph every meal and you log in and you check in. And I'm there to comment if comments are needed, tweak if tweaks are needed. But you have someone who's sort of taking you under their wing to check that you're on the right path. That's how it started with. That's how it started. And I send exercise videos as well. But then as I grew, not just in numbers, but with knowledge, I realized that it's much, much more than just choosing your food and eating it. There has to have an education behind it. So then I started to send audios every few days, explaining the rationale behind the foods, what foods will help satiety, what carbs will give you more energy, and why. So rather than being a dictatorial plan that you follow, you finish after 12 weeks and you think, what have I done? Why have I done it? Why have I lost the weight? Can I continue? It not only forms better habits, but it forms a basis of information so that you have the knowledge to drive it moving forward. And then it evolved with more, well, we don't just need an education, we need more of a mindset change, because food is so interlinked with emotion. And whereas I'm not in everyone's living rooms, I do like to be quite literally a voice in their ear when they feel they're reaching for foods that aren't on plan, so that they can rationalize themselves with that slice of cake or having a bit of a binge, and change their responses accordingly. And that means changing their interpretation with food, and not seeing food as, well, can I have this? Well, yeah, you can eat any foods, but should that be in moderation? Should you prefer certain other foods? So it's all about a bit like a giant's Rubik's Cube of just fitting everything together so that you get all the colors to match. Why is it 12 weeks? It's not 12 weeks because it finishes in 12 weeks, because the plan is forever. That's another key component, is making the plan work for you, not one size fits all. But what I hope to attain with 12 weeks is changing people's habits so that it becomes logical, ingrained. Just like when you wake up in the morning, you get dressed and brush your teeth, you make these foods day in, day out. And why a group? Well, it creates community, because sometimes this journey is quite lonely and sometimes we hide behind our own shadow. But when you're with other like-minded people, it makes it fun. And, you're working with people who are in the same boat, sharing ideas, sharing highs, sharing lows, sharing recipes, exercise tips, helping motivate each other. So there's lots of encompassing factors. And I started it after talking to one. I used to be, and I still do personal training, and I was talking to a client and she was telling me what she needed. And I just went away and thought, I'm going to try this. I'm going to launch it. I'm going to be so embarrassed if it doesn't work out, because everyone's going to see me on social media launching it. But what have I got to lose? And I just launched it and I filled up my first group. And now it very much works on word of mouth. That's the basis of my program. It's word of mouth. It's people recommending me. And my biggest hurdle now is to get beyond word of mouth. which I get, but it's more recommendation and referral and repeat business. Sorry, I'm waffling here, but I hope you get
You're
the
not
gist
at
of it.
all. I hope everyone came to this podcast with a pen and piece of paper, or five. I mean, I have, in the last couple of hours, been listening to your audios from back in the day. So we get sent these audios. There's a basic plan that's 12 weeks, but then Gemma also has an advanced plan for those of us
Yeah,
who've been through the basics. And how many audios, Gemma, do you think you've produced so far?
probably 70 or so, 70, 80, ranging from 2 minutes to 6 minutes. And it's nothing that's going to send you to sleep, but something that you can listen to quickly, just as a reset and a reset and something that just makes clears up your confusion, and also a lot of analogies. It's not just why is a carrot good for you? How can we make that an analogy so that you don't see it as a diet, that you see it as a broader picture in terms of life in general?
So just to give people a sort of flavour, because I want to, we'll dive back into your business model and your wishes to expand, and whether or not one never needs to aspire to more than word of mouth, because I have thoughts on that. It's a perfectly acceptable marketing strategy.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And one that we can capitalise on. And I also want, at some point in this conversation, for us to, and I think we probably will quite soon, get onto sort of limits, boundaries, and expectations of what you actually want, and to really dial into what you actually want in your life. And the same could be said for growing a business. We all think we want loads of likes, think we want loads of money. And actually, if you really ask yourself what you really need and want in life, often it's not quite as much as you'd thought. And I think the same could be applied to your work and to your business planning, indeed. But I want to get onto this sort of Buddhist teaching element of your work. And I was listening, as I say, to all of your audio recordings from back in the basic program. I think I'm on my third advanced iteration. So I keep joining Gemma's.
A top up.
Yeah, it's a top up, and I couldn't sort of emphasize too strongly how, for me, the group element of it keeps me going. So it's not, I'm not saying I'm a qualified nutritionist now, but I certainly have a better sort of sense of the science. And be that as it may, it's actually just the turning up regularly, feeling that I'm beholden to Gemma and the group, that I continue
But
to.
don't joke. That's a major essence, is that people can't do it alone and need that little teacher there to be saying, where are you? Check in. You're doing well. Otherwise, quite honestly, there are a gazillion plans on the internet that you could download, and they will probably work. But on the days where you're not feeling it, that's when people throw in the towel, and they need that coach, that mentor, to almost get out the pom-poms and say, come on, you can do it, well done, because that's what a lot of us need. It's that encouragement and the boundaries.
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. We could go down all of the rabbit holes today. So let's just,
Mm.
before we go down boundaries, which is an important one, I want to. Now look, you just mentioned something and I can't remember what it is. Let me just list out for some people here the kind of things that you speak about in these audios. And how I feel they're sort of incredibly metaphorical and quite relevant to a marketing practice, for example, and life more widely. So you talk about the pursuit of happiness on an audio, living in the moment, how the difference between a steady state of happiness as opposed to the pursuit of happiness, and being able to enjoy every day the kind of nourishment and understanding, as I've quoted you saying. Now, that's kind of the most obvious of the Buddhist teachings, in that, I think we're all so often motivated by this idea that there is happiness that we should be striving for, as opposed to being mindful in the moment, grateful in the moment, and sort of generally living in the moment, freed from expectations and being comfortable with the unknown. But then there's all sorts of other metaphorical things that come up for me in listening to you. So even just simply dialing it right back to audios about meal prep, what you talk about are aspirations, how life can get in the way, the idea of batch cooking, pre-preparing, finding time, saving the planet because we're saving on food and not wasting it, not deviating, how to be creative in the kitchen, how to be mindful and not overcomplicate things, and to get to know yourself, and all these things. Originally I thought were going to be super helpful in keeping to the plan, but of course what it did was instill in me practices that I've been able to take out more widely into my life. Just having a dedicated practice of anything, being able, and I can talk about, this very well, but I'm a mother of two young children. I was sort of relatively fresh off my second cesarean. Not that fresh, don't worry, but I can't remember quite how old my son was, probably 1 or 2, I think, my youngest, hence wanting to lose a bit of weight, and having lost all my sort of tummy muscles. But really, I was completely out of control because I had 2 little children and suddenly I had no agency. So all that freedom, all that ability to make choices, all the fight or flight hormones were flowing through me as I was completely in reaction to others. I was able to take back control of, I think, largely to do with your program. How many people tell you this? How many people reflect back to you how much bigger the impact is than just the weight loss?
A lot. And actually, it surprised me. It humbled me. It surprised me because, like I said, originally, I just set it out to be, here's a food plan, check in with me every day. And it worked. But, I think any business grows and changes over time, and that doesn't mean that the original business didn't work, but I gained so much more knowledge from my clients. But yeah, the feedback was that it had helped them in other areas of life, and then that spurred me on to do more audios, realizing the impact it helped with. And well, yes, it answers your question. Yes, it had. And actually, I went to a function a few weeks ago where a lot of my clients were there. And bear in mind, I don't meet my clients really unless they're friends that have joined. It's all done remotely. And the common thing that everyone said when they met me was, "You've changed my life." And we weren't just talking from a weight point of view. And actually, that ties nicely with what you were saying about the pursuit of happiness. Is that yes, I weigh people and take their body fat measurements every fortnight, but that is not the be all or end all, because as I said to everyone, you do not walk around with your scales around your neck. Happiness can be in so many other areas. Do you feel you can go to a restaurant and order a meal and enjoy it without the guilt? Do you feel you're all more organized in your life so that you can have breakfast, lunch, and dinner without grabbing a piece of toast because you haven't got the time? Do you sleep better? Do you feel more energized? Do your clothes feel more comfortable? Are your moods better? Are you less likely to graze? Are you less likely to snack? There are so many other aspects linked with happiness, but unfortunately, so many people join with that one goal in mind. It's the weight must drop. And I'm like, okay, but is that going to genuinely make you happy? And that's my biggest stumbling block, is to make people realize that what you weigh does not reflect how you feel directly. It's your health that's so important. And actually, I use the example is that, I never weigh myself. I don't feel I need to weigh myself. I'm not that interested in what I weigh. I know how I feel when I look in the mirror. I know how I feel when I put my leggings on. And if they feel a bit snug, perhaps I've deviated, and then I self-reflect. But looking at a scale weight does not make me happy. Waking up in the morning feeling energized and in control of my food makes me happy. But that is something that's such a hard barrier to knock down with so many of my clients. Do I do it with all of them? No. Do I do it with some of them? Yes. A lot of it's down to them listening to me, and a lot of them is how deep rooted. And some of them, it's just this revelation that appears like a light from the sky when they suddenly realize that if you weigh yourself 1 week and you're 1 pound up, you might necessarily not have put on weight. It could be down to so many other factors. And then we unravel what those factors are. And weight is so fickle, and it's not really how much you weigh, it's just that particular point in time. And you could have had 2 pints of water and a large salad all day. You might weigh more. You've not put on weight. So we just unravel all of that as well. And it's a lot of hammering home the same messages. And you may see that a lot of my messages have quite a similar conclusion, because it's often the same things that people need to hear again and again to recognize it finally.
You've touched on a couple of really important marketing points there.
Have I?
Yes. And I'm going to make these comparisons for you too, Gemma, because you've joined the Better, Bolder, Braver community now, which I'm really delighted about. And you're working through the coach's marketing journey with a view to thinking about how you might more creatively or, mindfully approach your own marketing. And I think what you've been talking to is the journey of consciousness, which is one of the things that Simon and I talk about a lot. And that's to say the different levels of awareness that people come to you with in terms of what the real problem, we don't really like the word problem, but challenge or opportunity there is for that. And what it is that's going to be of most profound, what is going to be the most profound change for them or the most profound realization for them. But there's no point often trying to sell the course and talk to people about those kind of life-changing sort of pursuit of happiness transitions in the first instance, because most people are coming to you because what they think they want, just like me, is to lose a bit of weight. But then as they work through the program, as they get to know you, as you gently guide them through these more sort of profound existential thoughts, what we end up being served by you is a lot bigger and a lot more important and a lot more sustaining. And we talk about this a lot because the coaches in our community and, coaches in general have come to their work. They're very motivated to help people change, to create change in the world that's big picture. But they need to start by meeting people where they are and answering questions and asking questions according to where, people's levels of consciousness when they first interact with them. So your use of, let's talk about your, excuse me, what marketing you already do, because on social media, you're pretty proactive. You use testimonials frequently, before and after pictures, and these all speak to people's sense of what it is they think they want, right?
I feel a bit of a fraud when you use the word marketing, because it has such a professional essence to it. And I've just posted on, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I try and posting testimonials, posting photos. Not everyone lets me use their photos, which is a shame. Testimonials, and then audio messages trying to relay some of the key points of the plan and recipes and things like that. I guess I've just looked at what other people do on social media and tried to not copy it, because then that would be pointless, but look, I'll tell you what I've done. I've looked at the social media that interests me, and I've tried to emulate that. What posts make me actually watch? What things validate my product? What makes people tune in for 30 seconds rather than switch off after 3 seconds? But we all get bogged down with it. Well, how many likes? No, not how many likes. I'm not bothered about how many interactions, how many plays did I get? I don't quite understand the whole algorithm. But yeah, that's a stumbling block, social media, because you do associate success with followers, and my followers creep up very, very, very gradually. Because I don't understand algorithms, and I haven't employed someone to do it. I haven't bought followers. Yeah, that's a frustrating part for me, is this whole social media, because we do equate that. Again, I'm contradicting what I'm saying. You equate that with success. Well, actually, majority of my clients don't even see me on. I have maybe one client a month that will say, I saw you on social media. The rest follow me on social media once they've joined,
I like to
which is
call
really
that
interesting.
your footprint or your portfolio. So
Okay, that sounds better.
all you're describing is what we try and uh, impart on people in the community. We there's no point trying to understand algorithms. They are always going to outsmart us because they're designed by programmers who know exactly what we're thinking. So there's no point trying to outsmart the algorithm monkey monster. You are very clever in that you put out short audios because we talk about people getting a taste of what it is to work with you through social media. So sometimes it's just a generous gift and a sort of exposing, uh, transparent gift of what it feels like to work with you. The flavour, the energy, and the
Yeah,
consistency, all on a meta level, give people on an unconscious in an unconscious way, an understanding of the practice and what it is that they will be getting from you. The ongoing support they see, and it might. And thank God you don't put buy my stuff in every single post. It would certainly have put me off. The lack of the sales message in your work is the thing that tells me that you are for me. And we're not for everyone, and that's okay. And we've talked about this. It's something that Seth Godin says.
mm,
You talk about copying, whether copying's bad. Well, if we weren't copying it, if we weren't listening to what you were saying, and if we weren't doing the simple things that you were telling us, we wouldn't be getting very far. And there's something to be said for when you see something that you like or something that resonates, why would you not try and emulate it? That makes perfect
mm.
sense. Instead of banging your head against a brick wall trying to sort everything out yourself. But as I say, our social media is the footprint of us. Sorry, that's my doorbell. I forgot to unplug it. Um, yeah, it's the way that people. It's the portfolio. When you go and see something in an art gallery or something, and you want to have a look at the back catalogue of someone's work to understand them better, or you're looking at someone's
Hmm.
LinkedIn profile or their CV to see what experience they've had before. That's often why people enjoy looking at people's social media. Nobody's sitting there waiting for you to post something that says "buy my stuff." Um, so I do enjoy. You're in the privileged position where people do rather like seeing the before and after pictures. I think, and they're testament to how
They
amazing the work that you
do.
do is.
They do, and that is my purest form of buy me advertising. But I have so many photos of people who don't look very different, but have lost 2 stone. Now, I don't use those photos because they're not going to sell. But you know, I can't remember where I was going with this point. It's. I think it just rewinds to my point about the visual isn't everything. Um, um, and also, you can't really rely too much on photography because lighting and angles and you know all those sorts of things can detract from the truth of it. But yeah, I guess the good photos sell, and that's the one thing that I hate doing, but I feel I have to do because it does. I do get the comments of, "Wow, was that really a client of yours?" Yes, I didn't cut and paste it from Men's Health, or I didn't copy it. And I guess part of it is, yeah, that is a pride thing. Is, yeah, this program created this, but it shouldn't be all about that. It really shouldn't. Um,
Do you remember we talked last week about? I told you why I really enjoy getting testimonials from clients, which is another thing that you're so good at sharing. And I said to you, one always assumes that the testimonial is there as a marketing tactic. And yet what I've found is that it's a humble gesture at the end of working with someone one to one to have to say to them, or to want to say to them, I'm really
mm,
interested to know from you what you got from this experience, and then I'd really like to share it if that's okay with you. So it's a real gift to me because it helps me to iterate my services and how I kind of go about conducting my one-to-one support for people. But I think it's also a massive gift for the people that I work with to be invited to reflect on what they've got out of the experience. And that's for two reasons. One is that the ritual of reflecting is really important in the process. Taking a moment to just sit down and go, what have I got out of this? But also to be told that what they have to say is of worth
Value.
to
Yeah.
you and
And
to
I've
your
never saw
audience.
it that way. I never saw it that way. I just saw it as, here's a bit of good advertising. Joe Brown's done the program. Let's show everyone what he thought. I never actually flipped it onto the reverse, which is really interesting, is make them feel valued and make them feel like their opinion counts. I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what you're saying as well. I think about the community and about how, you know, when you realize you're not alone, and you realize that what you have to say is of value to others along the journey, then that's a large part of the battle won. Because so much of this is, you know, and perhaps we can move on to your thoughts about perfection, imposter syndrome, punishing yourself,
Yeah.
and focusing on the small wins, all of which, you know, you talk about in relation to managing your diet and your exercise. But of course, we talk about in relation to people showing up every day in their marketing practice and doing so in a community and not giving themselves such a hard time about not knowing what the answer is. And we talk about niching for now, for example. You know, everyone hates the idea of having to sort of hone in on one target audience. But when we remind them that it's just for now, it's just in order that they can focus their mind on a particular messaging for a particular group of people around a particular thing, it feels a lot more palatable. So we try to take off bite-sized chunks, if you'll forgive the pun, in order just to help the human beings that are in our community to feel like they've got more control and not to give themselves such a hard time about failure.
I, I think with the whole perfectionist thing is, you know, firstly, what is your definition of perfect? Because if someone said to me, what is perfection to me, I'd describe a whole fantasy family, you know, 2.4 children, big house, no financial worries, kids doing amazingly at school, everyone's happy, everyone's friends. But that's not reality. So why am I ever going to strive for that? I think with perfectionism, for me, like you said, small wins. What do I want to get out of today? And breaking it down really simply, because then when you achieve those small wins, then that is your perfectionism, even though we don't like to use the word perfectionism. But often we set ourselves goals so high, 9 times out of 10, we don't achieve them. And then we, you know, knock ourselves down, we berate ourselves, and we feel like a failure. So you're sort of chasing your tail all the time. So, like you said, small achievements. And it could be, I went out today and I walked for an extra half an hour than I normally do. That's a win. That's a win. It may not be this perfectionist attitude that, you know, I didn't run a marathon, but just setting the goals that are in level with you and achievable will make you so much more of a happier person. Because to me, perfection does not bring happiness. Perfection actually brings insecurities and doesn't enhance your mood. It has the opposite effect. But like we said, we live in this social media world where we aspire to be like people that are so unattainable to the average Joe.
You're making me think about another thing that's come up for me doing this program, which is quite personal,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm willing to share it, and I'm willing to share it.
Go
And
for it.
that is to be able to kind of hold a mirror up to myself, as we say. We describe marketing as another self-growth opportunity, and I would say your program is also a self-growth opportunity, in that I hold a mirror up to myself to notice how I am showing up in the group and how I'm responding and how I'm motivated. And, am I doing a run because I want to be able to tell Gemma that I've done a run this morning? How much does it mean to me when I get cheerleaded in the group for having run my fastest 0 to 2 kilometres this morning? Is that validation important? Why? Or is it, and so, but I'm not saying there's any rights or wrongs. I'm just saying you
There
get
are
this
no rights
more
or wrongs.
acute sense of what drives you. And let me just add something else. I would not notice my own body and my own mind if I did not have the consistent practice of this plan. And let me give you an example. We have 4 seasons in our menstrual cycle. And I can now see so much more acutely the difference between those seasons because of the very, very slight differences in my appetite or interest in chocolate ice cream. That's, everyone knows that when you're about to get your period, you want ice cream. But it's a lot more sophisticated than that. It's a lot more subtle than that. My energy levels, like how much exercise, down to the minute, can I do? And it just makes me stop and think, wait a minute, where am I in my cycle? Or wait a minute, where am I in my marriage? Or wait a minute, how are my children at the moment? And I just wouldn't note it if I didn't. I guess the
But I
program
think that's
invites
really
questions.
key. Yeah, it does, because rather than berate yourself going, oh, I'm craving the chocolate, when you delve deeper and say, well, why? Is it because of my menstrual cycle? Is it because of this mood? I always encourage clients to, when we go back to the craving, when you're craving for something, just sit down and ask yourself, what is the current state of my mood? Dial it back. Well, I've had a really bad day at work. The kids have wound me up. I didn't sleep well last night. So you've already seen the trigger, which can affect your response. And when we understand the trigger, we're actually kinder on ourselves, rather than making ourselves feel like a failure. Oh, I can't control myself around this. I'm useless. Well, if we understand the trigger, that helps us be a bit nicer to ourselves and less likely to numb the emotion with an impulsive piece of cake, because all of it's a lot of numbing that we do. And what I try and teach you is that piece of cake not going to get rid of the situation. It's like putting a sticky plaster on it for a few minutes. You're going to have to take it off at some point. I've gone off on a tangent here, I feel, but
No, you haven't. This is exactly. I want to put a warning on this. Like, this is really, anyone listening to this needs to understand that.
Because it's your reaction to it that makes you overeat. I've become a failure because I craved the chocolate and I gave into the chocolate. And because I gave into the chocolate, I'm now having 4 more slices. Well, let's rein it back. Why did you crave the chocolate? I had really bad PMT. Okay. That's the root cause. It's not your fault. What can we do next time? It's not failure, it's feedback. Next time I have that craving, what am I going to do? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to run a bath. I'm going to move myself away from the kitchen where the chocolate is. I'm going to put Netflix on. I'm going to look after me and see how that response affects me next time, because it's feedback.
Also, you've said to me on numerous occasions, please don't worry about that whiskey you had. Because...
But in isolation, it makes a difference. If you're having it 3 times a night for weeks on end, yes, we talk about the bigger picture. It's not what you had on that day. It's what you have day in, day out for weeks and months, which affect your goal.
What it does for me is I'm a whole other level of awareness up from where I was about why I would want a whiskey. So I'm not berating myself for having a whiskey because I know the program and I know what you're saying. But it does make me ask myself what I needed a whiskey for that day, and to be compassionate about that, because as you say, we either are numbing something.
Sorry, I'm moving because the sun is moving around my house and slowly blinding me. That's better.
Is that a metaphor, Gemma?
No.
But I want to move on from whiskies. But you know, it's about saying, why did I do this? Why did I need this? What is really
Yeah.
happening for me right now? And the same can be applied to, you know, the marketing
It's
work that we
having
do
a
with people.
conversation with yourself. Sorry to
Yes,
interrupt.
yes, exactly,
Your
exactly. And you
friend is saying to
become,
you, I'm grabbing for the whiskey. Well, what happened today, Francis? Why did, well, my kid got in trouble for school and a client annoyed me. Okay, so what can we do to help? So it's self conversations. I find, and when I first started talking about it, I felt like, oh, this is really cheesy American psychology rubbish. But actually, it really helps. Well, it helps me.
I love a
Well, it
bit
helps
of
a lot of people, but it helps me. Helps me.
psychology rubbish, you know me.
Yeah.
Um, what I want to do, because I know people will find this really useful, if you don't mind, is get into the nitty gritty of your business. So I think what people would be really interested to know is, how long have you been running for? How many programs do you run at the same time? How many people are on the
Mm.
program? Do you do anything else? How does it, what's your work balance? Like, how does it sit alongside your PT stuff? What else are you doing? How old are your children? All these things are so materially interesting
Okay.
for our community
Oh, okay. Are
members.
there? Okay.
Yeah.
So I started with PT 2000 and I think 5. And obviously started with no clients, built it up, traveled to clients' houses, loved it, great. Didn't love the early mornings, didn't love the late nights, but at that time I had no kids, I wasn't married, and it was easy. Then in 2017, that's when I had the light bulb moment to start. No, rewind. So I'm a qualified nutritionist and weight loss management consultant. So then before my family was born, or when my family are young, I decided to go down the route of educating teenagers at schools. So I did a sort of tour of senior schools, and the theme of my talks were how to eat well on a university budget. So I'd have a group of the whole of year, I call it lower six, I can never remember year 12, 11, whatever it is, 13, and give a PowerPoint presentation to all the kids going off to uni about how to eat well when they're there. Um, then slowly budgets got pulled from schools and they weren't willing to pay me. And so that sort of stopped a bit. Then in 2017, I had this light bulb moment of, I'm training all these people once, twice a week, but their food is rubbish. So I'm training them, seeing no difference. I need to look at it holistically in terms of their food, their activity, their lifestyle. So I just set out to research and write a program that I thought would work. Launched it on Facebook, started off running, a group a month. It can be from 4 people in a group to 20 people in a group. I'd never go over 20. It's too much, too many messaging. Then I realized that I needed to retain clients and make it a bit more interesting. So I created the advanced program, which tweaked the program, gave you more food opportunities based on the fact that you had that 12-week knowledge basis firmly cemented in your mind. So the advanced group capture people for longer. On a parallel side, just before COVID hit, I ran something called Fitbuddie, which was a half an hour presentation about how healthy food for kids. I used to do that in my home because Zoom didn't even know about Zoom. So people used to come to my home. I used to give the talk. And now I am actually got ideas for something new whereby, so my Fitbuddie was very much, here's what you should be feeding your kids. But then I realized every kid's different. Everyone has different issues, sensory issues, taste issues, dietary requirements. How can I prescribe foods to parents whose kids could be fussy or whose budgets are different? And I realized this is the wrong angle. So actually what I'm writing now, and it may sink or swim, is a presentation about the importance of gut health for kids in terms of focus and energy and illness. Just a very short presentation, which actually I'm thinking of, and again, haven't really researched it so much, is sending it to schools for them to send to parents for free, but with my branding at the bottom. Now, why am I doing it for free? It's a taster. Hopefully people, and again, this is raising awareness of my brand. But also I'm doing it because I'm so passionate about gut health with kids. And I am so sick of people mocking my way of feeding my kids and not laughing behind my back, but always like, oh, well, when your child comes to my house for a play date, I'm going to sneak them loads of chocolate because you don't have that at home. We do, but we moderate it. So what I want parents to realize is it's all well and good you feeding your kids total rubbish, but let's look at what it's actually doing to them. And maybe you can think twice, not stopping the junk, but moderate it. Because when there's a birthday in my kid's class, the obscene amount of junk that my child comes home with week in, week out angers me, because that's my choice taken away. I don't want my child to come home with things that resemble glue, but you peel off and stick on your tongue, and a cookie the size of their heads. And I think parents aren't realizing what they're doing to their children. And then, you can see I'm passionate about this, then we get all the issues of, well, so-and-so's naughty at school, my kid can't concentrate, my kid's always ill. Well, maybe we need to look at what's going into your child. Now, I'm not saying gut health is the answer to everything, but it's your major organ, just like it's your heart and your lungs and your kidneys. And I think we are just overlooking it. And when, 50% to 70% of our kids' food is ultra processed food, what is it going to be like in the future? And so many kids have issues these days with behavior, with concentration. I'm not saying it's all down to gut health, but there clearly must be a link. There just hasn't been the research. And breathe. So that's my next thing that I'm working on when I can focus.
So for anyone that isn't making the comparison here in terms of Gemma's passion and what we're trying to support people with in this community, I'd like to point you to our manifesto. And I talk often about being an agent of change. And I think sometimes we can really get out of our heads with regards to the imposter syndrome and shame that comes along with wanting to promote your own coaching services, when we dial into what we're really passionate about in terms of how we want to change the world. Because if we're just thinking constantly about the fact that we're selling to people, we're forgetting why we did this, why we became what we became, and what power we have, and what empathy, authority, and personal story we have to share with people, albeit in exchange for money, so that we can change the world, change an individual, and change the world, and keep doing it and not burn out. And we haven't even talked about pricing today, but another thing that we really try and support people with is sort of pride around pricing, and being able to come to a conversation with a prospective client and not feel shame and apology and this kind of British cultural sense of a sort of needing to hide behind something that we should be proud to say that we feel is absolutely reflective of what we're going to be doing for them and for the bigger picture. So I think, Gemma, I've learned so much from you. I am going to continue to work with you. I'm on your next program. You're now in my community. I'm also going to be working with you on a one-to-one basis around your own business development. I've got one final question that will really inform the work that you and I do together. And that is, what motivates you to change anything? Given everything you've told us about how and how much I've said about how wonderful I think it is, what's motivating you to want to change anything up at this point?
When you say change, I'd say grow my business. Because I have the capacity to. I guess I equate numbers with success. And I see the value that it has made to so many people's lives. And I'd like to just, spread the word, really, because there are so many people that are just chasing their tails and overcomplicating things, when actually, so much of my plan is just basic and back to basics. And I'm a back to basics person. I think that's my personality,
And
I
the other
don't
thing we've
have.
talked about, which I haven't mentioned, is the parallel between us wanting to tackle the toxic marketing bullshit, as we call it, and you
Yeah,
feeling a sense of responsibility for tackling the bullshit that you see out there about these
yeah,
quick win health programs that remove
which all have
the
a
autonomy and
financial tag.
agency from
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. It's, and we're watching at the moment what I eat in a day. And you have these girls showing, I'm telling you now, it's not what you eat in a day. And it's so much food. And then they're obviously, there's the branding behind it, and they're promoting whatever. And I guess my own kids' generation, I wanted to spell that BS of buying into perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And making it and also just making it easy. I think people think it's so complicated. And the number of times people have said to me, I really want to join, but I'm just really busy at the moment. And I feel like saying, well, you're not going to eat again. Make it easy. Yeah, I'm just really, really
Yeah.
busy. I'm like, so that your meals are just disappear until you're not busy? No, it's just I'm really busy. I'm like, no. Dispelling excuses, the excuses people come out with. Oh, I've got a wedding in 2 weeks, so I can't join. Well, that's one meal.
That's also why you should join.
Well, is it what? Well, yes and no. You do it for you, but why is that one? Well, the wedding's going to ruin it. Oh, no, it's not. So we're sucked into this ancient diet culture, which is actually our own worst enemy.
We could go into so much. We're
We could
gonna
talk for hours, but
when
I
we
have to get my
do, we
children up for
enjoy.
school.
Yeah, and we could talk about. You're talking about ancient diet trauma. We could talk about cultural trauma and how you
Yeah,
know we've been encouraged to eat everything on our plates for one reason or another.
yeah,
There's so much in this that touches on the kind of levels of self-awareness that if we can dial into and be more mindful of, I think can change our lives profoundly, much more
mm.
widely than on the scales. So I'm so glad to have had this opportunity with you,
Me
Gemma.
too. It's
It's
been
been
lovely.
lovely. Yes,
Gone
it's
very
been
quickly,
lovely.
hasn't it?
It always does when
Gosh,
you're having
I
fun.
know. Yes.
And for anyone else, this is the Better, Bolder, Braver community. You can find us in all of the, well, not all of the usual places because we don't love Facebook, but you'll find us on Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube. And if you'd like to be supported in growing and putting out there your own coaching business, whatever your niche method and niche audience is, and whatever you're trying to help people to develop and change, we are there. So thank you, Gemma.
Thank you.
I shall see you on
Nice
the
to,
WhatsApp group
yeah, in a few minutes.
in a few minutes. Yes, post my tea. All right. Lots of love. Thank you, everyone,
All
for
right.
dialing in.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.